Hi, everyone. My name is Raenesia Jones. I am a cybersecurity analyst with Wright, Tremaine, and you are here with myself and Corey White, founder and CEO of Cyvatar, to provide an encore session from the ILTACON's highly rated session, Cyber Threats, Latest Trends, and Avoiding Attacks. I'll allow Corey a chance to introduce himself, and then we'll get started.
Corey White, 30-year veteran in cybersecurity. Kind of been there, done that, seen every incident you can possibly imagine. Ransomware, I've done a lot of pen testing, a lot of incident response, security assessment, remediation, etc. So happy to be here and provide my insight.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We're happy to have you. All right, so I'll get started. These questions are a follow-up of the initial ILTACON session to really just take a deep dive into some of the different attacks that we're seeing in the industry. So, Corey, in your opinion, in your thoughts, what are some of the most prevalent cyber attacks that we're seeing statistically?
Yeah, it's been pretty interesting. Over the last, say, 10 years, it's been the same type of attacks, which are phishing and ransomware types of attacks. But here's what's interesting. When you think about what is driving these hackers to launch these attacks, it isn't, to get, access to financial data or PII or, PHI. It actually is they want to make money. Okay. And so when you think, oh, I just bought a solution, it's an anti-phishing solution or an anti-ransomware solution. The challenge with that is you cannot buy just one product to solve these problems. And let me explain why, because let's talk about ransomware, for example. Ransomware is usually an attack that happens after another attack. It's not like back in the day, you just click on a wrong file or a link and then something gets downloaded and then encrypts just your machine. Now ransomware is encrypting the whole company or law firm. So imagine your whole law firm being encrypted. And that doesn't happen by just one person clicking. The initial attack may be one getting compromised, then the hacker is escalating privileges. They get access into the whole domain and access from administrator access, and then they will coordinate the ransomware attack across all systems so that they ultimately take control of your company or your law firm. And so once they take control of your law firm, then they can hold your law firm under ransom. Now, let's talk about what's happened in the last few years as it relates to ransomware. So there's a thing called double extortion ransomware. So first is they've got you encrypted. Now, double extortion, so let's suppose you're litigating a big case and they steal some of that confidential data and threaten to share it with a third party. Now that's a double extortion, okay? So that incentivizes you to want to pay them faster and even more money. Now let's talk about what a triple could look like. Suppose they take over the administrator credentials and access into a lot of your critical applications or your network or your domain. That's a triple extortion ransomware. So the goal of that is to make sure that you pay. Okay, and they want to make it as difficult as it possibly can for you to run your organization unless you pay those hackers. So that's ransomware. And then phishing, again, you were seeing business email compromise. And again, the trick there is just to get money transferred into another account outside the wrong account. And what the hackers are doing is that's not one attack either. They're compromising someone's email, taking over their account, and at that point, once they have access into their account, they may get into other people's accounts, escalate privileges, and they monitor for sometimes weeks or months to see who normally pays you, or if the big payment's coming, then they're going to send an email and say, hey, from your email account, hey, we've just got new banking information, please transfer here. That's a really basic version, but these two attacks are very complicated and there's no one tool, one solution. You need bundled solutions targeted to solve these issues.
Mm. Very good point, good point. And I really like how you mentioned that some of the attacks these are classic attacks. They've been around for quite some time now. And when we think about phishing and social engineering, for example, how has AI really changed social engineering um, for the threat landscape for law firms?
Yeah, yeah, it's one of the things I've in my companies over the years we've done simulated social engineering attacks, and the amount of reconnaissance that you have to do and planning of it. Now, all that is automated. There are automated planning tools. There's tools like Fraud GPT that will plan your whole social engineering attack. Now, it's put out there, hey, this is a good way for you to test out and see if you're building the right scenarios, but hackers can use these tools as well. So when you think about social engineering back in the day, we used to get poorly written, African Prince emails, and we all knew not to click on those. Well, now they're well written. They know a lot about you. They can use what's called open source intelligence. And this open source intelligence can say, hey, Raenesia, I saw you at this event and I didn't get a chance to talk to you, but I'd love to, chat about, how we can help your organization. And then they send you a link, because you posted, say, on LinkedIn that you were at certain events. So this information can be easily scraped by these hackers and used against you. So the social engineering attacks are highly sophisticated and using AI to automate their attacks. Now, when you think about what protection mechanisms a typical law firm may have in place, they are not AI based. What we found is that the majority of them, they don't have the best of breed tools and they don't have the best of breed expertise. So meaning they don't have a cybersecurity expert. Some of the smaller firms absolutely don't have a chief information security officer and a big security team. Okay, so it's outsourced to sometimes an IT provider, or maybe they have one IT person that is IT and security. Now, I'm not an IT person, I'm a cybersecurity person. So when you think about it, there's just two different skill sets. And it's rare you're going to find someone that is a cybersecurity person and also a very good IT person. So you really need someone that's able to use the best of breed products, configure them properly in a preventative state. They have to be AI powered today. And then on top of that, you have to have someone continually monitoring and securing your organization. When you think about it, that the hackers are not just hacking you when you apply your patches once a week or a month or whatever that cycle is. They're trying to hack you every single second. So if you look at your logs, you'll see someone attacking you, and these are automated attacks every single second. So if you're not continually securing your organization, there absolutely is a mismatch into the way you secure your organization versus the hackers are trying to hack into you. So that's how AI has really changed the threat landscape and made the gap even larger from where a typical law firm is and where the hackers are launching AI attacks.
And that leads us to my next question. On the defender side, how are you seeing law firms use AI for security defense?
Unfortunately, I'm not. A lot of the larger law firms, absolutely, yes. And the way it should be done is when you think about the tools that you're using to secure your organization, those tools should be AI powered, okay? And let's just, talk about antivirus, next generation antivirus. A lot of them are starting to come out with AI capabilities, but there have been AI-based antivirus solutions out for at least the last 10, 15 years, and I've worked at a few of those organizations. But the other big challenge with it is they can give you the AI functionality, but there's a thing in cybersecurity called detect and respond, and we'll talk about that in a minute here. But if you don't configure it to block, that's just like saying I went to Home Depot and I got the best AI cloud powered door lock I could get, but I didn't actually lock my door. Okay. And so when you think about just detecting attacks, that's what it looks like. You need to be in a preventative state and monitor a lockdown network as opposed to detecting and responding, because you're just opening yourself up to be compromised. And the odds of you being able to get an alert and respond to it and stop someone from stealing, confidential, information are very, very low. So that's where we need to change our approach into a preventative, proactive approach.
Love that. I love that. That makes perfect sense. And still on the topic of AI, can you tell us a little bit more about deep fake attacks and how AI is impacting that and how are they prevalent today for law firms?
Yeah, yeah. Just so everybody knows what a deepfake is where someone can take your likeness, and I'll use myself for example. I do a lot of public speaking, lots of videos out there, and it literally takes 2 minutes of my voice for AI to replicate my voice. And then they also can replicate my likeness. So imagine all over if you have a partner at the law firm and there's a big important case, but there's a deep fake put out of that partner saying something that they should not be saying publicly about that case, then so the hackers can use that and they can put out fake information or fraudulent information for their own purposes. Okay. And we're seeing extortion around these AI-based attacks, and we've seen in the last couple of years a significant rise in AI-based attacks. So when people think about AI-based attacks, I want to make sure I'm clear. They don't get labeled as an AI-based attack. They get labeled as a cyber incident. But be clear, hackers are using AI in those incidents. So if there's a way for them to be more successful and make more money off of this compromise, they're going to use whatever they can. So it's not going to be headlines AI-based attack. It will be headlines of cyber incident. Hackers are using it all the time. Period.
And speaking of tools, would you say law firms are, would you say that as far as uncovering vulnerabilities, would managed slash extended detection and response be the right approach for vulnerability management?
Yeah, and so vulnerability management has really evolved over, the last, I'd say 10, 15 years. But when you look at what does managed detection and response and extended detection and response actually mean? And I challenge every single law firm to go and if they have a partner and they bought some kind of a MDR or XDR solution, what they probably were sold, and they need to be clear on this, is that this company is going to just manage and send you an alert. So I'm an ex-penetration tester and also incident responder. If I launch an attack on a system, say at 1 a.m., and say that sends off an alert and someone receives that alert, then they got to go and do an investigation. But if you're a pen tester or a hacker, kind of worth your salt, within an hour, you should be able to escalate privileges and potentially, exfiltrate data. So the breach is done. And a lot of automated scripts happening in the background that these hackers are using, but it's done within an hour. So if you only have detection and response, and what extended means that they're just going to monitor more devices, okay? But it implies that none of that is preventative. They didn't apply the patch. They didn't make sure multi-factor was in place. They didn't, configure the next generation antivirus to block the attack. It just sent an alert. So that means that you will be compromised, and this MDR or XDR vendor will send you an alert and say, "Hey, something bad happened, Raenesia. Look into it." But when you think about how fast technology is moving and hackers are using, they're going to steal the data. The hack will be over by the time you even get the alert in many cases, or you get a chance to respond. So I want to make sure that law firms are conscious of these MDR and XDR solutions. They sound amazing. You're like, oh, we're going to monitor you 24/7 and look at every single thing. But no, really it means is that they're going to sell you potentially some sensors that are monitoring your devices. And you got to pay for that. They're going to charge you for the monitoring service. You got to pay for that. And then they also, many of them have incident response services. So they got 3 revenue streams that they can get from you. And they may not be preventing the attack. So I challenge you to, ask your vendors, your partners, are you actually helping us prevent this attack? Because you can prevent, there's a great stat from Gartner, and I had to prove it out in this company. 98% of all attacks are preventable. And if you look at the incidents that say maybe your organization may have experienced, you'll see, oh, if we had just patched that system, if we had just knew that system existed, IT asset management, if we had just made sure that that user was using multi-factor authentication, then their account may have not gotten compromised. If we had email phishing in place, if we had some kind of way to prevent, DNS, from allowing us to go to fake compromised domains, these are all easily configurable solutions if you have the expertise and know-how, and they will stop these attacks. So you can spend your money on those preventative controls, or you can spend them on the monitoring, which will ultimately most likely lead you to a compromise.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Corey, thank you so much for this deep dive into AI and how it's impacting law firms in terms of cyber attacks and different trends that we're seeing. And we also appreciate the great explanation into entering a preventative state and also what deep fakes look like and the impact that they can have on law firms. So that concludes our session for today. Any final thoughts that you'd like to share?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that we have done at our company is offered up a free risk assessment for our customers and also a free risk exposure using Mastercard's risk management solution called Risk Recon. So we don't believe in spending time telling people about their vulnerabilities or risks. We give that to you for free. I think it could help a lot of law firms get some insights into what their risks are before they actually spend money. Because again, things like pen testing are obsolete today because the minute you do a pen test, the next day 100 new vulnerabilities come out, your environment changes. You need to focus on remediation and maintaining a secure environment. So you can, hit me up on LinkedIn or hit me up on our website at cyvatar.ai. And I appreciate the partnership with ILTACON. Thank you.
Thank you. It was great having you. All right. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Take care. Goodbye.